Wood shot 34.
I didn't care that I won by 12 shots. He asked his coach, Butch Harmon, to take the winning swing apart and build a new one. And sometimes Tiger Woods, because the only person that he really competed against was himself. Can he do better than himself? Train hard, fight easy. I made practicing so difficult, hurt so much, because I wanted to make sure that I was ready come game time. I hit thousands of balls, hands bleeding, aching, just so that I could play in a tournament.
Fairway, but certainly not Tiger.
And one of the people who trained like that was Kobe Bryant, and he said this, but his level of dedication just never switched off. And he didn't slow down as well when he got older, he ramped up. The most dedicated athlete I've ever worked with by far. Tiger never allowed himself to be satisfied, because in his mind, satisfaction is the enemy of success. Impossible, simply impossible. But what did perfect look like in Tiger's eyes? I think that question is something that I'll always wonder. I was in it to find the answer to one question: how good can I be? Well, that's fine. They can expect all they want, but I've always had this one bonus to my personality. My expectations are so high, no matter what anybody else expects, it's going to be lesser than what I expect of myself. So that's a big bonus. And plus, I really don't give a darn what they think. So that's an 18-year-old Tiger Woods, and he's basically, right now he's already the best junior in the country, he's already on television, and the thing he wants you to understand is that the world's expectations is somewhere below his own, and this wasn't a new attitude. Years earlier, there was a reporter at the New York Times, and he asked him what Tiger was aiming at, and this is what Tiger said: I want to be the Michael Jordan of golf. I'd like to be the best ever. So he didn't hold back. He told him exactly what he thought. And there's a key idea here is that Tiger wasn't comparing himself against anyone. He was simply wanting to work on how good he could be, and the ceiling of how good he might become. And that was the one question that was running through his whole career, and this is what he said. He put it plainly: I was in it to find the answer to one question: how good can I be? I suppose I was searching for perfection, although that's not attainable in golf except for short stretches. So that is the book, Tiger Woods, by Jeff Benedict and Armin Katian. And so we're going to lean on Tiger's own words throughout from the book, and the one thing that I'm doing different is I watched a couple of his videos, and we're going to rely on his videos, his interviews, and from his Hall of Fame induction speech. I've already done an episode. This was actually my first ever episode, was on Tiger Woods, and if you listen back to it, there's probably, I've probably improved hopefully by then, but I would highly recommend watching that episode back. It'll be longer than this one probably will be. So like I did in the last few episodes, there's 3 words for today that I want to focus on, and that's expect, refine, and exceed. So I want to start with, like I've mentioned, the idea of perfection and what perfection meant in Tiger Woods' life, and he carried that throughout his whole career. And he was asked about it as a young pro, and he answered as if he'd been speaking about it or thinking about it his whole life. I've always been a big believer of professional excellence, and that's what I try and achieve. I know I can never get to the point where I hit perfect shots every time, and I just want to become the best I can be. And that, to me, is professional excellence. So standard like that is very interesting. It's hard because you're constantly competing against yourself. So even though you might beat everyone on the field, like you might walk away as a major championship, you might still be disappointed. And sometimes Tiger was, because the only person that he really competed against was himself. Can he do better than himself? And this is exactly what he told the press when they asked him what made him different from the rest. I've always felt that I've been pretty tough mentally. I've always felt that I've had a mental edge over a lot of my opponents. It doesn't mean I have the physical ability to back it up, but I always felt that I could play with them mentally. I had the desire to win. I wanted to beat you, but sometimes my physical capabilities weren't there. And that's why I needed to get my physical abilities up where I thought my mind was. My mind's won me a lot of tournaments, but physically, I always felt that I wasn't as good as I could be. And I think that's what I've been working on to where I'm at now. It's almost like he's having a race between 2 versions of himself, and that was like his mind and his body, and he spent years trying to drag one to the slower one up to the one that's faster. And there's the instinct of, making the competition with yourself is a signature of a particular kind of great, because it means that you're constantly competing, you're constantly trying to improve. The practice sessions that you have always mean something, because there's always something to prove. No one's perfect, like Tiger says, but striving to be is what makes you as close as you can be and makes you as great as you can be. And there's one athlete that comes to mind when we speak about this particular kind of this mentality, and that was Michael Phelps, guy who would retire with the most Olympic medals, more than anyone in history. And this is what he described when he was asked about what he was really racing against. I don't worry about other guys when I'm training, not even Lochte. I get myself ready. Of course, I'm racing at the Olympics or anywhere against other guys, but I'm also racing against the clock, and maybe mostly against myself, to see how good I can be. So that last phrase, to see how good I can be, that's the idea around this whole episode, and is asked by an athlete who's got nothing to do with golf. It's a totally different sport. Again, I keep saying this in every episode, there's different sports, but there are the same laws that carry through and everything. There's these key themes that we speak about over and over again. And so I want to speak to you about something that happens in the book, really interesting in Tiger's life. And there's a part where a lot of people get wrong about Tiger. So for years there's a story that Tiger was chasing Jack Nicklaus's record of 18 major championships, counting up toward that total. But that was actually never really the target. It started when he was 10 years old. He was watching the 1986 Masters, and it was the year where Jack Nicklaus was 46 years old, and he came from behind and he won his 18th and final major. And this is what happened. His reactions over those last holes of the 1986 Masters made an impression on me because they were spontaneous, and they showed me how much of yourself you have to put into a shot. Jack was 46 and I was only 10, and I couldn't put it into words then, but I wanted to be where he was and doing what he was doing. So after that, Masters Golf magazine printed a list of Nicklaus's career and all of his career accomplishments, every milestone with the age that he reached at. So Tiger tacked this to his bedroom wall, and most kids would have read that as a list of trophies try and match, but he didn't do that. He did something really different. He read it as a set of ages to beat, and this is how he explained it. It was the first time he broke 40, the first time he broke 80, the first golf tournament he ever won, first time he ever won the state amateur, first time he won the US amateur, and the first time he won the US Open. That was it. That was the list. It was all age related. To me, that was important. This guy's the best out there and the best of all time. If I can beat each age that he did it, then I have a chance of being the best. So do you see what he does? He's turning this rival with Jack Nicklaus into a clock. Jack Nicklaus is retired at that point. He, at the point that where Tiger is starting to achieve these goals, he can't respond because he's already reached those milestones. He's 46 years old. So the competition that Tiger made was sealed off inside his own timeline. He wasn't trying to beat the man that he teed off against on Sunday. No, he was trying to beat a list on a wall by a certain birthday, by a certain date, and the only person that could actually fail was him. I find that amazing. These milestones that he set himself was what he was trying to chase, so that there's this almost this pressure, this innate pressure that you build in yourself, because once you complete one milestone, there's another one that you need to beat, and there's this, and it makes it more fun as well. I think it makes it more fun and challenging. I think that's something that everyone would actually benefit from. And if there's a sport, if there's if it's in your own career or whatnot, if you're a young kid or a coach, this is the type of thing that makes athletes great. And this is one thing that Tiger Woods did that I find truly fascinating. It's not a story that I've really heard about in any of the other books. There are things that they do that they do have. Actually, the only other one with Michael Phelps, he would have regular goal setting that he would do with Bob Bowman, and that would give him something to work for. And he would reach that milestone, which was usually a goal time, and he would meet it precisely. If it was like 1 minute 52 seconds and 52.48 seconds, he would get that exact time. So there's some athletes out here that take these milestones super, super seriously, and the really great ones are the ones who achieve them. So the question is, where did Tiger actually get this standard from? And I think it can be traced back to his childhood, which was equal parts of obsession and exclusion because he was a lonely kid. He learned the game with his dad on a par 3 course and a Navy course that only his dad could get him into. And often it was in the dark. He was hitting until he lost the ball and then he would stop. The furthest I ever made it was 17 holes in the dark. Never quite got to 18. But that, it was one of the things that drove me was the passion to play the game of golf. I was never going to be denied to play. I loved it. I had this burning desire to be able to express myself in this game of golf. But the sad thing is that he actually was denied as a youngster, as a person of colour. There were some country clubs that he couldn't actually play at, and listen to what he did with it. While playing at some of these golf courses, I was not allowed in the clubhouses where all the other juniors were. The colour of my skin dictated that. As I got older, this drove me even more. So as I was denied access into the clubhouses, that's fine. I put my shoes on here in the parking lot. I asked 2 questions only. That was it. Where was the first tee and what was the course record? Not complicated. And that shows you his confidence. I mean, the fact that he's the only thing he's worse. He's a young kid and he wants to know the course record so that he could go and break it. That was the only thing that mattered to him, was that was the number that he wanted to beat. And I think underneath this was a lesson that his dad, Earl Woods, drilled into him. And it was that nothing arrives for free. And the thing that is driving the result, that will earn the result, is the work that you put into it. Nothing's ever going to be given to you. Everything's going to be earned. If you don't go out there and put in the work, you don't go out and put in the effort, 1, you're not going to get the results, but 2, more importantly, you don't deserve it. You didn't earn it. So the standard wasn't just high, it was moral. In Tiger's own words, in his own head, you don't deserve a result unless you've paid that price, unless you've practiced alone in the dark. If that's what it took, there's a price to pay to greatness, and that to him is what earns you greatness. But that lesson didn't arrive so much as the game. From the time Tiger was small, his dad would try and keep the whole thing competitive, and this is how Tiger spoke about it. One of the things my dad always taught me is that if you put a lot of effort into it, you're going to get results. But if you don't put any effort into it, you're not going to get any results out of it. But more importantly, you don't deserve any results. So I mean, get out what you put into it. And one of the things that my dad always did when I was growing up, he always kept it competitive and fun. And I love to compete. So he kind of just always fed up on that. And my whole goal in that entire childhood was to try and beat my dad. So that drive was to earn it, and the love of competing was planted almost together by the same man, Earl Woods, at the same time. And that's what really drove them closer together. And obviously they had their troubles later on in Tiger's career when Earl got older. But that is what forged that bond that made the most dominant golfer this history has ever seen. So I want to speak to you about the method that Tiger used to become great, because a lot of players want to be great, but Tiger built a routine for himself where he could measure himself against great every single day, win or lose. And this is how he described it. You should learn something from each and every single round you play in. Every single round, you should learn something. Whether it's one thing, it may be 20 things. Learn something from each and every round. And I've done that. Every round that I've played, I've come back home. I've critiqued my round. I've looked at it from the mental and mechanical side. What went wrong, what went right, and I applied it to the next day. So this is the heart of how he worked. He was someone who critiqued his own round, and he wanted to be the final judge of it. And he trained in ways the sport had never seen before, not to keep up with rivals, but because his own standard demanded it of him. When I came into golf, I done it differently because no one had ever trained. No one ever lifted weights. No one ever ran miles. No one ever did wind sprints. No one ever did any of those things in golf. So I did it differently, and I had the success doing it differently. And then he paid for that standard that he set it for himself in the most literal way, his own body on the range, long after the trophy was already his. Train hard, fight easy. I made practicing so difficult, hurt so much, because I wanted to make sure that I was ready come game time. I hit thousands of balls, hands bleeding, aching, just so that I could play in a tournament. So that refusal to sort of stop practicing and just clock off is what some of the rarest competitors, the greatest athletes have in common. And one of the people who trained like that was Kobe Bryant. And he said this: even people on my end might at some point say, enough, I want to go to bed. But his level of dedication just never switched off. And he didn't slow down as well when he got older. He ramped up. The most dedicated athlete I've ever worked with by far. That's from his book. And it's the same engine that kept Tiger on the range long after he'd put enough hours in. Like, he probably didn't need as many hours as he did, or did he? I will never know. No one will ever know. But the point is that he trained so much more than his competitors that is almost like a formality that he was going to win that trophy, but he would train anyway. He would train extra hard anyway. And that's what some of the greatest athletes do. Now, this part is something that doesn't make sense unless you understand what Tiger's actually chasing. So in 1997, Tiger's already won the Masters by 12 shots. He not just won, he's annihilated, and it's one of the most dominant performances the tournament's ever seen by a 21-year-old. And here's what he felt about it. I didn't care that I won by 12 shots. I knew what I needed to do. Butchie knew what I needed to do. And above all, I wanted to do it. I thrived on working on my swing. I was addicted to staying on the range for hours. And then he did something that was totally wild, totally unexpected, something that you would never expect someone to do after they've just won the Masters. He asked his coach, Butch Harmon, to take the winning swing apart and build a new one. He had the sweetest swing on the tour. Why mess with the success? I want to change this, Tiger said. I want to do it now. Harmon could hear the determination in his voice. It wasn't up for debate, so he suggested a more methodical approach. We can do it a little bit at a time. Tiger said, no, I want to do it all right now. And that decision cost him. In the short term, it cost him. He walked away from that swing that had just won him the Masters, and he didn't win another major for almost a year. It took roughly 22 months to master the new one, and in between he hit a wall, he was criticised, doubted, and he would do it later again in his career as well. More than once, he would constantly dismantle his game, constantly take apart his swing and build a new one. And he wasn't measuring himself against anyone else on the tour. He was measuring how good he believed he could be. And even though, just imagine that, he won by 12 shots in the Masters. But in his head, I would love to hear it in his own words. What score was he actually trying to achieve? He's won by 12 shots. Like, he's dominated. I would really love to know what would perfect have looked like to him, because there's no way you're going to, get 18 birdies in a row. That's incredible. That would be incredible. Get 18 eagles in a row. Impossible. Simply impossible. But what did perfect look like in Tiger's eyes? I think that question is something that I'll always wonder, and something that I'll constantly look to gather as I read through these books. But the point is he was tearing down this winning swing because he believed he could be better. And there's another guy who came to mind as I was reading this, and that's Rafael Nadal. And this is what he said. When you play a final, what matters most is the victory. But what really gives you deep personal satisfaction is to feel that you are an improved player, because that is the real base of the work. You can win or lose on any given day. That depends on details. But to have the feeling when you go on the court that you are truly a better player, and to know that is the fruit of all your labours over many years, is where the real satisfaction lies. So that's the logic beneath the act that looked like madness for Tiger, that, the trophy was already his, but the only thing that Tiger cared about was how could he become a better player? What could he improve on? So I want to speak to you about the final thing, which was the cost that was buried inside the gift. And it was this standard that Tiger set for himself that was so high that it never really let up. He held the number one ranking for so long, longer than anyone in history. He won 14 majors before his body gave out, and he changed what was physically expected of golf. He changed the landscape of a golfer. He was a true revolutionary of the sport. But the thing that made him great also never let him rest. And this is what his coach, Hank Haney, said. Tiger never allowed himself to be satisfied, because in his mind, satisfaction is the enemy of success. His whole approach was to delay gratification and somehow stay hungry. It's the way of the superachiever. The more celebrations, the less there'll be to celebrate. There's so much is interesting in that one quote right there. First, that is a gold mine, what he said there. Satisfaction is the enemy of a success. That if you're satisfied, it means you're not going to work as hard for the next thing. And that his whole approach was to delay gratification, somehow stay hungry. So, and it ties into today's day and age. There's constant dopamine hits on social media for young kids, and to do easy things, to do the easy thing and be happy. Whereas Tiger was the total opposite of that approach. He would delay gratification so that he would never reach it, so that he was constantly chasing. So you might think like he was, just chasing the record books, and on paper he was. But one thing that happened later in his career, he was asked what was pushing him, and he named two targets. This is what he said. So he named two targets: Sam Snead's all-time record for PGA Tour wins, and the major record, which the world always assumed that he was chasing, which was Jack Nicklaus's. 18. But notice where he put the thing that would actually haunt him. I would regret finishing number 2 on either one of those lists if I didn't put the effort that I thought I could have. And if I felt that I've done that so far in my entire career, I'm going to continue doing it. So that one answer holds the whole idea of it. The records were real goals, but they were never what he answered to. What he was answered to was his own sense of what he was capable of. If he thought he was capable of winning 18 championships, then he'd be disappointed that he didn't achieve that. But if he didn't, the one thing that mattered to him was what he was actually capable of and how much effort he could put in. And it's the same question that he'd been carried since he was a boy, with that list of ages of Jack Nicklaus's of records on his bedroom wall. And it was a question of how good can I be? So when you watch the old footage and you wonder what made him different from, you know, the talented golfers around him, that question is the answer. How good can I be? The talent was real, but, you know, talent isn't a rare thing. You do see it. But the rare thing in this case was that he set the standards so high, so far as well, and it was all intrinsic. It was all intrinsic pressure that he put himself, intrinsic goals, intrinsic, you know, records that he was chasing. This standard that was so impossible to achieve that actually, you know, it cost him, because you can never really truly be happy because you're constantly chasing better. And you know, it's that saying of the enemy of good. And it's that same saying of the enemy of good is perfection. Well, Tiger embodied that. He was aiming for perfection, and he definitely paid a price for it. So much went wrong in his career, but I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on what made him great, and it was that question: how good can I be? And you know, the fact that winning by 12 shots in the Masters wasn't good enough, and he changed his swing, says it all. That's the episode. That's the whole of it. That's what I wanted to cover. I would highly recommend reading this book, even watching the videos that, you know, I based this episode on was really intriguing. It's so interesting to hear it in Tiger's voice on video. The man is truly a legend. It's such a shame that he'll never play golf again, most likely, but you know what, the memories that he left everyone, I wish I got to see him live. I didn't. But you know what, I'll continue to sort of rewatch his highlight reels and his best moments. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you at the next episode. That's one legend down. The work continues.